Raider Nation. Thank you for joining us on the Only Nation podcast, brought to you by the Raider Ramble. My name is Heidi, but you may know me as Kevlar Prodress or even Raider Ladybug. I'm here with Raider Homer and T3 Raider Facts, and we're ready to talk some Raiders football together.
Always ready to talk Raider football.
Hey, a belated happy Father's Day to all the Raider fathers out there. We've just finished up with the first mini camp. Now we have a little bit of a break. Well, at least the players have a break, but not us. Let's go.
Today on the show, we'll review some of the Raiders news from the past week, and then we'll discuss Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake, and the rest of the running back room.
All right, Raider Nation, this is the Only Nation podcast, so we want to hear from the Only Nation. Give us a call at 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. Leave us a voicemail or send us a text.
Here's the latest Raider news.
The Raiders added 2 new players to the roster this past week. Free agent corner Devontae Busby and free agent linebacker Darren Lee. Busby, originally an undrafted free agent signed by the Kansas City Chiefs, has been with 5 different teams over the course of his 5 years in the league, most recently with the Arizona Cardinals. Lee, the 20th overall pick by the New York Jets in the 2016 NFL Draft, spent his first 3 seasons with the Jets and then went on to stints with Kansas City and Buffalo before joining the Raiders. In a corresponding move, the Raiders waived cornerback T.J. Morrison.
You know, they are really trying to fix this secondary. I think that that's very crucial for us to start winning, of course, is to have a great defense because, you know, we've been going through this over and over, you know, talking about Gruden's conservativeness, play calling. But, you know, I like that, you know. You said that we're going to be talking about the Raider running backs here shortly. You know, Gruden loves to run the ball. You know what I mean? And so, you know, that eats up a lot of clock. So you got to have a great defense that can get these offensive off the field and pound them, you know. And it starts with the great, you know, defensive line. Of course, hopefully that wakes up and starts up this year. And then these cornerbacks can really show up. Trayvon Mullen, you know, I'm excited to see what he does this year. It's going to be a big year for him. But, you know, hey, OTAs are gone. Training camp's next. So I'm excited to see these players, you know, competing in training camp.
Devontae Busby is a camp body, so I don't imagine he will stay around the roster very long. But now the addition of Darren Lee concerns me a little bit. Now, I was really concerned the fact that the Raiders did not draft a linebacker early last year, and they're pretty thin. We've got to have either Muse or Diablo step up this year, or that linebacking core is going to continue to remain pretty slim. But we'll see what happens. I'm concerned about this, not because I don't think Darren Lee is going to produce. I think he's another camp body. But the fact that they brought in another free agent linebacker, it kind of concerns me a little bit.
I think the concern about linebacker is warranted. The moves that they've been making on the offensive line, I'm not really worried about. But the ones at linebacker, I'm concerned. I think that they're a little thin. I'm hearing rumblings that Corey Littleton is not making a very big impression. And they're just not sure of where they stand as far as the linebacking core goes, as usual. Because, well, we didn't draft anyone early in the draft for linebacker.
I'm still a believer in Kwiatkowski and Morrow. You know, we've talked about him in the past, and I think that he's going to do well this year. And I think Kwiatkowski, I think that he really is better than a lot of people think. You know, there was couple of plays where, you know, he didn't make the tackle, but he went and blew up 2 blockers, you know what I mean, and destroyed the play. I saw that a lot out of him. The defense played a lot better with him, so I'm not as concerned about the linebackers. To me, it's the DBs. I want to see the DBs play good this year. You know, starting with Abram. You know, let's see what happens with Morig or, you know, Carl Joseph. I mean, but the DBs are what's really important.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I like Kwiatkowski and Morrow a lot. The thing is, if they're the only ones that are making a good impression, that's not that great. I think Divine Diablo, you know, he still hasn't even, you know, really hit the field. He hasn't signed his contract yet either, as far as I recall. And that's going to leave them a little thin as well. Tanner Muse, I do have hope for.
He's going to play well this year, I guarantee it.
I know that you're confident of that. I definitely have hope for him. But I'm concerned about Littleton. I Wasn't concerned after last year because I thought a lot of it was Paul Gunther, but the fact that he is failing a little bit this year concerns me.
Again, though, he came out of the 3-4, right? And we're playing the 4-3. And he may not be that guy that we thought he was, but let's hope so. Let's hope he really shows up. He needs to. We paid him a lot of money.
In Littleton's defense, it's easy to play behind a guy named Aaron Donald, and it's easy to play in front of a guy named Jalen Ramsey. Now, I think that if Littleton has confidence in the defensive line and has confidence in that back end to back him up, I think you're going to see him play loose and free and get back to where he was playing when he was with Los Angeles. At least I'm hoping so.
Okay, one rookie that has really turned heads at the OTAs and minicamp has been rookie defensive back Nate Hobbs. He has received praise from both John Gruden and Gus Bradley, as well as from several of his teammates. In his introductory conference call, he said, "I play with passion, I play with want to, and when I'm on the field, I'm going to enforce my will." He also went on to say, "They're getting the best underdog they've ever drafted. Keep a close eye on Nate Hobbs throughout training camp. You just might see him on the field when the starting lineup is called against Baltimore in Week 1.
I really, really, really like the drafting of Nate Hobbs. I saw this guy play in college. He's underrated. I think he's going to make a big impact in training camp. He already has in the OTAs. And I think that if he doesn't start Week 1, he will work his way into the starting lineup by the middle of the year.
I hope so. Like I said it a little while ago, these defensive backs need to show up this year. We're playing some high-powered quarterbacks, high-powered offenses. This division is tough. So these guys, there's going to be a lot, on their shoulders, and they got to deliver this year. I think that the defensive line has been addressed. Let's just hope that they show up and play well, and then it's going to be on these DBs. So let's hope Nate Hobbs, with this great attitude, I love what he's saying right here, they're getting the best underdog they've ever drafted. That's the kind of stuff you want to hear from a rookie. That's for sure. So I'm excited. We're getting closer and closer. It's going to be a competitive training camp, and 11-6 is definitely going to be what I'm calling. Of course, I call it 10-6 every year, but hey, whatever.
That's why we keep you around, Homer. Always the optimist.
And apparently I'm the comic relief. That's what DK was saying about me. So if you're listening to this one, DK, thanks, man. Thanks for listening.
That's because you don't know anything.
Every show needs one.
I do know some stuff, but you know what? When I say a mistake like Mariota being drafted before Carr, you should let me know. Like, hey, But hey, T3, I appreciate you, writing my little paragraph for this episode.
I told you I would, so there you go.
Thank you very much.
Happy Father's Day.
You were on a roll. I didn't want to interrupt you.
But yeah, come on now. Help me out a little bit. I think you liked that. You enjoyed what you were like, this dude.
I figured you'd edit it out.
Nah, just play it. Let's be fun. It was funny.
Defensive coordinator Gus Bradley is reuniting with new Raiders defensive end Yannick Ngakoue, who Bradley and the Jacksonville Jaguars drafted in 2016 and brought the Jaguars within a game of the Super Bowl in 2018. His goal now is to get number 91 on the same page with the rest of the defensive unit and create what could be the deepest group of pass rushers the Raiders have had in recent memory. "Our philosophy is you can never have enough rushers," Bradley said in a recent presser. Probably a lot of teams believe that, but I think that we want to make sure we keep guys fresh. Ngakoue, Max Crosby, and several others will now combine to work within this system, generate the desired amount of pressure, and still have time to catch their breaths. It's a new season, and it's time to see a big change in terms of reaching the opposing quarterbacks the Raiders will face in 2021.
I'm telling you, I think that Ngakoue and Max Crosby are going to have a hell of a season. Those two can definitely, rush the passer. And on both ends, what do? It's not like we have just one guy like Khalil Mack on one side. We got two guys that are that caliber. Maybe just a little under, but still solid pass rushers. I think you were talking, T3, a minute ago about how if Littleton has a defensive line in front of him, he'll play a lot better. And I think that this is going to happen. And I love that Bradley has these players that he knows and has coached in the past has them wanting to play with the Raiders, because this could happen quickly now. If he's getting guys in that have experience, they can help teach the rest of the players how to operate in the defense, and it could happen week one. We could see this great defense show up because it's been simplified. They're utilizing their players better, and Bradley, being an architect of the Legion of Boom, I'm excited about this. That's what I'm saying. That's why they've been going after defensive backs left and right. I think that means that they do feel really good about the defensive line. I think they feel a little bit better about the linebacking core than last year, but you can tell that they're really focusing on the secondary. And if we can get a secondary like the Legion of Boom, it's on. We're going to the Super Bowl. Derek Carr is taking us, and all the Carr haters can shut up, because I'm going to point at you and laugh.
I'm starting to see a front line formulating of Solomon Thomas and Cleve Ferrell in the defensive tackle spots, and then Crosby and Ngakoue on the ends. But now they've already mentioned the fact that they brought in people to kind of spell Crosby and keep him fresh. So this is where Malcolm Kuntz and maybe even Carl Nassib can come in and play a role. I think if you substitute Max Crosby in and out and keep him fresh, then that tandem of Ngakoue and Crosby that Ngakoue's been talking about several times already early in camp is really going to come to fruition. But you will not see Max Crosby out there every down. He played, I think, way too much last year, and I think minimizing his snaps, or at least taking away a few snaps and keeping him fresh, is going to maximize, excuse the pun, the number of sacks he can get and really bring that line up to speed.
On our show last week, we looked at the quarterback room. Today, we're going to focus on the running backs. I'm going to start with a young man who has quickly established himself as one of the most important players on the team, offensively, who is expected to carry a big load again in 2021. Let's take a closer look at third-year starting running back Josh Jacobs. 23-year-old Josh Jacobs was drafted by the Oakland Raiders 24th overall in the 2019 NFL Draft. In only 2 seasons, he has put up 2,215 rushing yards and 404 receiving yards on 53 receptions. He already has 19 rushing touchdowns in that span. He has been the Raiders' workhorse running back, and as a result has had some nagging injuries over those 2 years. In spite of that, he's put up incredible numbers. He can run inside and outside and should remain effective for several more seasons. This past offseason, the Raiders have added good depth to their running back room, and this should help Jacobs stay fresh and prevent some of those minor injuries. Jacobs' future looks bright, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do this season with his additional backup and the focus on the offensive line being more rushing-oriented.
My concern here is that running backs in the NFL don't last very long. And Josh Jacobs has put in an incredible amount of work in his first 2 years. Now, the Raiders' run game, when it's been predictable, it's not been effective. Now, granted, we got younger and faster along the offensive line, which I will mention a little bit later. But I'm hoping now that with Kenyon Drake coming in, Josh Jacobs is not going to get the heavy workload that he's gotten in the last 2 seasons. So if you're wanting to pick Josh Jacobs for a fantasy player, you're probably going to be a little bit disappointed because he's not going to get, I think, nearly the yardage he got last year. But I think he's going to be a lot more effective, particularly picking up first downs on the ground and maybe even some short catches out of the backfield. So I'm looking for good things for Josh Jacobs. Maybe not the stellar numbers he had last year, but maybe a better season and maybe able to make it through the entire season a little bit more healthy.
This guy is a great running back. I'm glad we got him. The comparisons to Marcus Allen and Bo Jackson, that was good to hear. And he is a really good running back. Yes, I love watching him being able to go inside and bounce outside or go inside and go through. I mean, the guy's a great running back. It's probably the best running back we've had in a long, long time. I'm going back to Gruden era, first Gruden era, Charlie Garner and them. He has those kind of moves. He's a great kid. That's what I like about him too. He had that one little accident and things like that, but he was, his backstory was really good. A family oriented player, character guy. So I think that's important. And you say that running backs, they don't last that long, but bringing in Kenyon Drake here is going to help that. Because look, that 1-2 punch that Gruden loves to deliver, man, I'm excited to see that shit this year. This is going to be fantastic. This is the best running back room we've had in a long time. But I'm excited to see what we do this year, especially in the red zone now. Like Heidi, you were talking about the offensive line being more run-oriented. I was looking at some reports, and they were saying that while Rodney Hudson and Gabe Jackson were some of the best pass blockers, they weren't the best run blockers. So, they are definitely leaning more towards the run. You can tell that's what they want to do. But getting Josh Jacobs, the backup is really going to extend his career, and I'm hoping that he re-signs with us.
Oh, yeah, when I say several years, I'm talking about several years in terms of a running back's lifespan. Running back's lifespan, 4 or 5 years for the good ones. He was a first-round draft pick, so we're looking at another 2 to 3 years with him, for sure, if we exercise the fifth-year option. Whether they're going to want to open the purse strings and give him a mega contract at the end of that remains to be seen. Running backs are a dime a dozen now, but Jacobs is a special one, and hopefully we'll be holding on to him for at least those next 2 or 3 years, and the addition of the new running backs will help greatly.
Absolutely. I really do hope that this contract is up, that we re-sign him. He's going to be a great piece to Gruden's offense for a long time. And, sometimes running backs do last a long time. Let's hope this guy's one of them. There will be a new face joining Josh Jacobs in the backfield. A fellow product of the University of Alabama, Kenyon Drake is set to begin his first year with the Silver and Black. Originally drafted by the Miami Dolphins in the 3rd round of the 2016 NFL Draft, Drake came out of Alabama having served as a backup to Eddie Lacy, then T.J. Yeldon, and finally backing up Derrick Henry in 2015, his senior season, after missing much of the 2014 season due to a broken leg. Despite missing 2 games in 2015 because of a broken arm, he returned and ended up running back a kickoff 95 yards for a touchdown in the 4th quarter of Alabama's 45-40 national championship over Clemson. When he came to Miami in 2016, he played all 16 games for the Dolphins, gaining 179 yards and rushing for 2 touchdowns. In 2017, starting running back Jay Ajayi was traded away to Philadelphia, and Drake was penciled in as a number 2 back behind Damian Williams. Drake became a starter in Week 12 when Williams went down to injury. In Week 13, he rushed for 120 yards and a touchdown and a win against Denver. He followed that up against New England with 193 yards from scrimmage in a 27-20 upset win. Drake finished the 2017 season with 644 yards and 3 touchdowns. Then in 2018, he picked up 535 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns to go along with 53 receptions, 477 receiving yards, and 5 receiving touchdowns. He was traded to the Arizona Cardinals 6 games into the 2019 season. He showed flashes but was never really leaned on as the guy. The Cardinals transition tagged him in 2020 and he signed a 1-year tender with the team. And then the Raiders came in and signed him to a 2-year deal.
I'm really excited to see what he's going to bring to the running back room. He's a good running back. And did we overspend for him? Maybe a little bit. But if combined with him that we can keep Jacobs injury-free and fresh, that's worth it to me. Because we are going to focus on the run a lot this year. Yes, we do have a great aerial offense. No doubt about that. Carr can get the ball to the wide receivers. And regardless of what the press says about the wide receivers, I think we've got a good bunch of them. But I think that the foundation of that is going to be the running backs. Running game opens up the passing game. And with Drake, that's just going to be that much easier and that much more consistent. We did have a good 1-2 punch last year at times. Devontae Booker looked good in the early part of the season. Jalen Richard has faded away over the years. But Kenyon Drake, he's going to make an impact. And he is going to make Josh Jacobs all that more effective. So I am really looking forward to see what he brings to the team.
I guess what I'm most interested in seeing is how they use him and when they use him. Now, the question in my mind is, are they going to switch out Jacobs and Kenyon Drake and use each one as the feature back in sets? Or are they going to bring Drake in and have him and Jacobs in the backfield together? Now, they may do a little of both. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do, particularly when they get down close. Now, Kenyon Drake has already come out in a couple of pressers and said that he believes he can have an impact, particularly when the Raiders get close down into the red zone, and be a flex player, which means sometimes they might flex him out into a receiving position. Sometimes they might put him in an I-back position. But let's just see what Gruden can do with two really, really good backs. And again, as I tell everybody, as we get close to fantasy season, I would not select either Josh Jacobs or Kenyon Drake as my sole back. But now if you pick both of them, if you're able to get both of them and can start both of them together, then you might end up with some pretty good points there. But let's see what Gruden does with these two guys.
The one thing that stood out in my mind is the injuries. He did get injured, so I'm worried about that. But again, that's with Josh Jacobs too. Them sharing the load should help that out, both of them. And look, I like Kenyon Drake's moves. This kid has a great juke. He can use the spin. He keeps his legs moving when he gets in the pile. And, that flex, that wide receiver position you were talking about in the red zone, I liked how he was doing some of that in Arizona. I could see that really working out. And then, he has great hands. So, Captain Checkdown, right? Derek Carr, get ready, man, because, he's going to be right there. But I'm excited to see what Gruden does do with this kid. I like this kid. It's going to be, I'm telling you, this is the best backfield we've had in a long time. With Ingold leading the way, too. Damn. This is exciting, and this is we got the clutch. You talk about the wide receivers a little bit. We got the guy that's, clutch on third down. We got the big body in Edwards. We got the speed in Ruggs. We got the crafty veterans, and then we got a great tight end. I'm telling you, this running back room is going to make this team go. You're right, Heidi. It's going to open it all up. But this is going to be explosive, too. They're going to be carrying a lot of the load. And then, keeping them fresh and splitting the time, man. It's going to be a great season.
All right, so kind of in summation, here's what the entire running back room looks like, reflecting back to last year and going into this year. Now, in 2020, Josh Jacobs was the main guy. Devontae Booker came in as a proven backup, and he had flashes, but it was truly Josh Jacobs' show. Alec Ingold, supported by catching a few passes out of the backfield, doing some run blocking and picking up a tough yard here or there. But he wasn't really a threat last year. Jalen Richard returned a few kicks, caught a few passes out of the backfield, and that was about it. When the Raiders' run game became predictable, it was largely stoppable. Theo Riddick was brought in, but he was a depth piece who was never really used all that much. Now, flash forward to 2021. Gruden has said that he's committed to restoring a dominating run game. He's already brought in Alex Leatherwood, gotten younger and quicker along the rest of the offensive line, and he now has two dynamic running backs in Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake. He also has a dependable fullback who is very versatile and whose potential has not truly been tapped yet. I'm talking about Alex Ingold. So what about the rest of the running back room? The two main questions seem to be, how many running backs do the Raiders keep? And is one of them going to be Jalen Richard? Well, a lot of talk has surrounded Richard over the offseason, and people wonder whether he's now outlasted his value. And I think that remains to be seen in training camp. And if he's motivated, I think he has an edge over Theo Riddick to stay on the roster, at least for one more year. So if you have Jacobs, Drake, Ingold, and Richard, that may leave room for one more back. This is where I think he can really kick the tires on two young guys, Garrett Groshek, the free agent signee who came from Wisconsin, the same school as Ingold, and Trey Ragas, another undrafted free agent who comes out of Louisiana, with one roster spot on the line between the two of them up for grabs, possibly. So let's get camp started and see who makes his mark. I like both backs, but I really like Groshek. That would give you 4 running backs and a fullback for 2021.
I like Kenyon Drake and Josh Jacobs for that 1-2 punch and Ingold. And I'll take Jalen Richard as well. I like him being able to block, on third down situations. He's very reliable. Plus, he can return punts and things like that. So hopefully he still sticks around. Now, Theo Riddick, he did, show some flashes. I would like to keep him too. But we'll see. That's what training camp's for. I'm excited to see what they decide to do.
Okay, so we know that Jacobs, Drake, and Ingold are going to stick around. Does Richard stick around? I think there's a possibility. If he's willing to rework his contract, they might be willing to keep him around. He's taken all the Raider stuff off of his social media. He did that a while ago. I think that They were going to exit him out the door, but that has been put on hold for right now. I do know that the Raiders were not one of the teams that met the 85% vaccination threshold like they wanted to. And Richard, I am assuming something here. I doubt that he is going to be one that will take a vaccination, seeing that he's been so vocal about even allowing his kids to be vaccinated. So while that might seem like something really small, that might be something to keep in mind when they look at the final roster and decide who are they going to keep around. Do they want someone that they know is protected? Do they want someone that they know brings that number up higher? Or are they going to stick with him? He is a kick returner, punt returner, and I cringe every single time he goes back for the ball. I freak out because he just can't seem to hold on to the ball when he returns. He does great out of the backfield, but when he is a returner, man, I get scared. So definitely Jacobs, Drake, and Ingold will be there. I could really see Gruden going with only 3 running backs for the year. And I could see Groshek making it. Trey Ragas, you heard his name a little bit earlier in this preseason, but Groshek is the name that you keep hearing now, that they are impressed with him and that he's been looking good. So we might be looking at Jacobs, Drake, Groshek, and Richard. I think Theo Riddick and Richard are about the same. So that's kind of a toss-up on to say who would stay or who would go. But I'm confident in this running back room. I'm confident in our fullback and Alec Ingold. And I am looking forward to see what they put on the field this year, because I think this is one of the strongest running back rooms in the league right now.
You know, I just like the fact that Theo Riddick and Rashard, like you said, they're basically the same, back, but they know the system. This needs to be, we got to start off fast this year, especially with the younger offensive line. We need some veteran running backs, and so that's why I lean towards them. But yeah, okay, Groshek, I'll check him out. That's for sure.
You see, the thing about it is with so many weapons in the receiving side, if you have the 2 main backs and then you have Ingold as your fullback, I don't really think you need to rely on the running backs so much for firepower. So I kind of agree with Heidi that maybe less is more when you're talking about numbers in the running back room, as long as you can keep those 2 main guys healthy. But let's see what happens. Groshek, I really see that he's got some potential. And since running backs don't have a long shelf life, let's bring a new guy in and see what he has. Theo Riddick, you know what you have with him. Jalen Richard, you know what you have. But I think that we can get better. And tapping into some of these unknown quantities during training camp may prove some exclusive dividends going forward for this 2021 team.
And now we're making a little bit of a change. This segment used to be called Heidi's High Five, but since T3 is actually doing it, we decided to change the name. So here is the new segment, which will now be known as T3's Top 3.
T3's Top 3.
All right, here is this week's edition of T3's Top 3. Number 1, Divine Diablo's been missing so far from the workouts. Now, Coach Gruden says he fully expects the young safety/linebacker hybrid player to be ready for training camp, but that's all that anyone's been saying. Now, I'm hoping that this doesn't turn out to be another 3rd-round bust and that Diablo comes in ready to go. If he doesn't, then Tanner Muse, maybe Javen White, here's your opening. Number 2, one name that has been conspicuously not coming up during any of the media updates has been the name of second-year corner Damon Arnett. Neither Gruden nor Gus Bradley has mentioned his name, and he seemed to be doing more observing than participating in on-field drills recently. Veteran Casey Hayward has already come in and seemingly ripped the starting corner position away from number 20. And the names Nevin Lawson, yes, that Nevin Lawson, Nate Hobbs, and Amik Robertson have all come up as suitors for that slot corner position. So the number 19 pick from a year ago may find some slippery footing when camp opens up. Let's see what happens, but it's definitely time for the young man to step up. And number 3, even casual observers have already detected a certain level of uncertainty about the linebacking core. Outside of Kwiatkowski, Littleton, and Morrow, there's very little to choose from in terms of proven depth. Now, Kenneth Murray is the guy I really wanted the Raiders to pick at the number 19 spot last year. And I hate to say I told you so, but unless either Muse, Diablo, Javen White, or newcomer Darren Lee can prove something in training camp, the linebacker spot will still be a little thin. And if anyone should happen to get injured, that could spell trouble. And that is this week's version of T3's Top 3.
Thank you, T3. Some of that we've already touched on. I think Diablo is injured. That's my personal opinion. And that's what's been keeping him off the field. He, like I said, as far as I recall, he hasn't signed his contract yet. But I think that he probably has some little nagging injury that they're keeping quiet about. Otherwise, he would be out there. I'm pretty sure that he would be chomping at the bit. Damon Arnett, oh. Vic Tafer, he already said that he seems like an afterthought as far as the defensive backs go. He hasn't been on the field. He's been outplayed. He was definitely a reach last year. He's not gone for sure, but he is fading away. And it's his job now to step up and show he can play, show he can fight through injury and not be injured, and be a consistent contributor. I'm not sure he can do that. I totally see Casey Hayward taking the spot from him and ending up as the other starting corner. And I've already mentioned my concern about the linebacking core. And yeah, you're right. I told you so. Never drafting the linebacker high up in the draft and always playing thin at that position. I don't know why the Raiders do it, but they seem to do it every single year.
This is where I hate being right.
All right, for me, I think that Arnett, he might lose that spot this year if Hayward is playing that well. Then that might be good for Damon. I still like his toughness, though. He did play with the injured hand, got the surgery, came back, got knocked out twice, and came back. So he's a tough kid. But maybe he does need a year off. We'll see what happens, But, I'm glad that they really are focusing and bringing in these cornerbacks to really get Gus Bradley's defense to work right. And so Meek Robinson, I'm happy to hear his name for sure. Let's hope, because he didn't show up at all last year, really. So if he's really, getting high praise from Bradley, I'm excited about that one. Diablo, hopefully he works out. But I'm telling you, I ain't too worried about it, because Tanner Muse, I'm telling you, he's still coming. I've been saying it for 2 years now. He's going to be all right. Trust me, though. He's going to come back. He had that toe surgery. And, I was talking to Clay Baker in Vegas, and he said that it was actually a serious toe injury. So, give the guy a chance. I think he's going to come back. He's, like I said, he's 240, 6'2", runs a 4.4. The guy's going to be a beast on the field for us. So while the linebacking core looks a little thin right now, we still have some players. And Kwiatkowski, I'm telling you, he got that one pec injury, I think, but he came back from it, and then he played well for the rest of the year. So I think it's a health issue. It's a health thing. They got to stay healthy, but I think that Kwiatkowski showed that he can, and Morrow too has been healthy and available through most of his time with the Raiders. So it's just Littleton. I would think I'm a little concerned about Littleton now, but we'll see.
I think we all agree Littleton is really the one that everybody's going to be keeping an eye on and seeing if he turns it around this year. Because he was playing really slow last year and seemed to always be a step behind. I seem to see the tail end of his jersey trailing after every single play. I hope I don't see that this year, but let's see if he can turn it around. And I think playing against the Rams in the training camp is really going to help them a lot. So he can maybe pay attention to what's going on and the communication between the linebacking core and the defensive line of the Rams and see how it's done. And maybe that will rub off on him.
Give us a call at 904-701-8667. Leave a voicemail or text message at that number, or send in a message via social media, and we'll share your thoughts. This week, no voicemails, but we did get several messages. I got a couple messages from guys that had questions and just wanted to give us some encouragement on the pod. They didn't want shout-outs, so definitely not going to mention who they are. But we thank you for those messages. And that's one thing I did want to say. If you want to contact us and you don't want to shout out or you don't want to, have your name mentioned, feel free to do so. We won't do that. If you want to give us a call, you don't want it played, just say in the call you don't want it played. Don't let us put you on the spot. We just want to hear from you. T3?
Now, I did have several. Actually, I hit up a few people after our discussion that we had on our fandom and asked several people, just kind of sent a poll out there to see where our individual Raider fandom came from. And Antoinette from Modesto, California said, my fandom comes from returning to Oakland from Los Angeles. We are worldwide. We could have the crappiest season, but our Raiders are just all ours. No other team outsells us in anything, whether it's clothes, decals, school supplies, housewares, Christmas, everything, tattoos. Nobody even comes close to our fan base. Win, lose, or tie, we are Raiders until we die. That's from Antoinette in Modesto. I also heard from James in Madera Rancho, California. And he said, my fandom comes from my childhood watching football with my dad and him asking me what team was my favorite. I remember liking the silver and black, badass pirate on the screen, and I was hooked. A lot of people mentioned to me how they saw the logo and the silver and black, and they were just all in from there. And then finally, since we're recording this on Father's Day, Anissa Raiderette from the heart of Denver Bronco country out in Colorado says, being a Raider comes from my father. Die-hard Raider fan living in Colorado since day one. My pops passed away in 2015, but I continue his legacy to the fullest. Everything I know, Raiders, came from Pops. And I think that's a fitting tribute on Father's Day coming from Anissa Raiderette. So thank you everybody for chiming in, and continue to give us your messages, your thoughts about your Raider fandom, any questions that you have, or just anything that you want to know about the Raiders in general.
Yeah, and one more thing that I wanted to mention is we were contacted by a researcher at San Jose State University about fans that have Raider tattoos. And you can go ahead and contact him. They're looking to do a study, interview for about 45 minutes over social media, over Zoom or Skype or something, and ask you about your fandom and if you do have a Raider tattoo, what it means. So if you have a Raider tattoo and you're willing to participate in the study, email theodore.butryn, Butryn, at sjsu.edu. That's Theodore, TheodorE.BUTRYN at sjsu.edu. Tell him we sent you. I actually will be doing my interview on Monday. So by the time this episode airs, I will be doing my interview for my tattoo.
And I want to hear that.
Yes, and they are going to be willing to actually share the results with us. So one day, once the study is over, we will be talking about that with them themselves, with the researchers. Do either of you have Raider tattoos?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
So they don't want to talk to me.
I could go out and get a rub-on tattoo if that would count. I'd be happy to do that for the cause,
Right.
No, I had a custom one designed several years ago now. I have it on my calf.
We kid always at the restaurant that I work at that if the restaurant should ever burn down, I would be easily identified because I would be the only person in there with no piercings and no tats.
Why am I not surprised? All right, and I think it's time for us to find out what Homer doesn't know.
Hey Homer, did you know?
All right, Homer and Heidi, I hope you are ready because it's now time for another edition of Hey Homer, Did You Know? In this segment, I will ask Homer and Heidi and the rest of our listening audience, that's you out there, a Raiders-related question with 3 possible answers to choose from. It's multiple choice, so just give it your best guess. Here goes with this week's question. Who leads the Raiders all time in interception return yardage? Not number of interceptions, but interception return yardage. Is it A, Lester Hayes, B, Jack Tatum, or C, Willie Brown? And Homer, I'll go to you first. What is your guess?
Of course, I want to say Lester Hayes because he has a lot of them, but I feel like that's the obvious one, right? So I'll say Jack Tatum.
Going with B, Jack Tatum. All right. Heidi, what's your guess?
And I'm thinking just the way that Homer is thinking. Hayes and Willie Brown, they're the flashy ones, so they are the ones that you are going to think of. So I'm going to skip the obvious ones, and I also am going to go with B, Jack Tatum.
All right, here is the correct answer. Lester Hayes and Willie Brown actually are tied with the lead for the Raiders in numbers of interceptions with 39. However, Jack Tatum, with 30 interceptions, actually holds the record for the most number of return yards with 636 returns on 30 interceptions. Terry McDaniel, who played from 1988 through 1997, and Dave Grayson from 1965 to 1970 are tied for second place with 624 return yards via interception. But the leader in all-time yardage in interceptions is Jack Tatum. So you are both correct this week.
Woohoo!
Yay! I can learn.
I feel good now.
Yeah, me too.
I was hoping that we didn't end up in another big, long losing streak.
No, we have turned it around.
Yes. We're on to you, T3. We're skipping the obvious answers.
Okay.
Hey, don't challenge him. Now he's going to make it harder. Come on.
That worked for this week. You never know.
Oh, boy.
These are pretty hard, okay?
Yeah, they are. I know. Trust me.
That's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I have as much fun putting these together as I have trying to guess what your answers will be.
Well, last week we both guessed the same and we were both wrong. This week we both guessed the same and we were both right.
Oh, yeah, working. As a team. We lose together, we win together.
That's right.
Yeah, but remember, Homer, you picked first, so you can't cheat.
Okay, I'll remember that. And now, Raider Nation, it's time for the best segment of the show. A segment that I came up with the name for. Here is Heidi's Heroes.
Now, I noticed last week you edited that. You said that you came up with a segment. You didn't come up with the segment. You came up with the name. Just remember, keep that straight.
Oh, I apologize. Sorry, boss lady.
Raising Men Lawn Care Service began in Alabama as a service to the community. Rodney Smith Jr. founded this service to provide the elderly, disabled, single moms, and veterans who don't have the resources to care for their yard with free maintenance of their lawn. Smith challenges young men and women, well, boys and girls, but they provide the service of young men and women, to maintain at least 50 yards for free. They mow yards, rake leaves, or shovel snow for those who can't do it themselves. Smith provides the youth with different colored t-shirts. When they first start the program, they get a white t-shirt. As they complete each step of the 10 lawns, they get another t-shirt. For example, when they mow 10 yards, they receive an orange shirt. When they mow 20, they receive a green shirt, and so on. Once they mow their 50th lawn, Smith makes a trip to see them, no matter how far away, to bring them a new mower, blower, and weed whacker so they can continue their services. Currently, they have 1,850 youth worldwide in the program. These youth come from all over the United States, but also hail from places like Australia, Canada, the UK, Bermuda, and even Japan. Rodney Smith Jr. is leading the way himself. He has completed 50-yard and 50 states challenges. This is where he drives to each state and completes at least one lawn in every state. He does this to bring awareness to the program and encourage those who are participating. He even meets with kids in the program and will mow a lawn with them. Smith leads by example and challenges the youth to provide this valuable service to the community. That's what makes him this week's Heidi's Hero.
That's great stuff. I love that. I love hearing all these great stories from a segment that you created, but I named. But that's good stuff.
Al Davis said the greatness of the Raiders lies in its future, and this young man here is paving the way for the future generations of just Americans in general, but hopefully some of them will be Raiders fans as well.
You know it. They even have participants here in Alaska.
There's grass in Alaska?
There is grass in Alaska. Believe it or not, I am setting up our pool right now.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Homer, we need to have a pool party up in Alaska.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
We do normal things up here. It's not just bears and moose.
Yeah, it's bears and moose in inner tubes.
Oh, my.
All right, and that about does it for this week on the Only Nation podcast. If you'd like to help support the show, buy us a hot dog at buymeacoffee.com/onlynationpod. You can find me, Heidi Stabbert, on social media as at Kepler Prom Dress on Twitter and Instagram, or Heidi Stabbert on Facebook. You can also find me on YouTube on Captain Jack Rackham's channel every other Tuesday night. And join the GC wench Peggy Holmes and Angria Trask on the Captain and His Wenches show.
All right, Raider Nation, we've got a lot going on, even during the off season. So you can find me, Raider Homer, by going to theraiderhomerchannel.buzzsprout.com. There you will find links to all of my social media accounts, and you'll find links to where you can listen to my podcasts. Also, please go and check out the Raider Homer channel sponsor, ChuckyStuggs.com. Just go to ChuckyStuggs.com. That's ChuckyStuggszz. Just go to ChuckyStuggs.com and check out some of that merch.
We really love getting responses from you, Raider Nation. So now that you've listened to the show, here's what you do. Send us your name and address so we can send you some free Raiders swag. Call us and tell us what you want to know. Throw us an interesting nugget so that we can use it on one of our upcoming episodes and become a part of what we're doing here. Remember, this is the Only Nation, and we want you to be a part of it. So call us, 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. Call us now and join the Only Nation podcast family. There are two easy ways to find me on social media. You can send me a tweet at T3_sports703, as several of you do, or you can hit me up on Facebook at Tom, T-H-O-M, Jones. I will do my best to respond back, and I would love to include your comments on upcoming show. And thank you for tuning in and also getting involved.
As always, we look forward to hearing from you guys. Until next time, everyone, go Raiders.
Go Raiders.
We are not just a nation, we are the only nation.